did Jungkook cry when RM and Taehyung came home? For the past 2 years, BTS has had to live unusual times apart. Those who for many years have always been together, shared the stage, rehearsals, until the time of rest, suddenly had to part with each other due to state duty. Although they all know that conscription is part of the obligations that must be lived, the fact that they can no longer be together for a long time leaves an invisible wound. For Jungkook, RM and Taehyung are very close figures, like brothers and friends who are always there at various important moments in his life. When RM and Taehyung leave first for the army, Jungkook experiences a deep void. He had to continue his activities alone, working on solo projects, without the presence of figures with whom he always shared his story. When the two return home, Jungkook's tears are not just a sign of happiness. It was a blast from the longing for which he had been latent. In an internal moment that was leaked among HYB's staff, Jungkook is said to have spoken softly to RM when they met again. "Hyung, I just realized how lonely my life is without you. I used to think I was strong enough. Apparently not." That simple sentence describes how much emotional support RM and Taehyung have given Jungkook over the years. Their return was like filling an empty space in his heart that for the past 2 years he had insisted on staying strong. When RM hugged Jungkook in their first meeting after enlistment, internal sources said that Jungkook hugged tightly without saying anything for a few seconds. The hug was long enough until a quiet sob was heard from Jungkook, who was trying to hide. Taehyung came and hugged them. That moment, although simple, seemed to be the culmination of all those feelings that so far they could only endure in solitude. This is what makes Jungkook no longer able to hold back tears. "I think I can greet you with a smile, but it turned out I could only cry," Jungkook said after the hug, with his eyes still wet. As Magne, the youngest member, Jungkook is often seen as strong, cheerful, and always professional. But on top of that, he's carrying a heavy burden. When one by one his Hyung goes to enlist, he often has to face the world alone. Every decision, project, even a statement in the media, he had to do without the direct support of the Hyung who had been his emotional support. The moment RM and Taehyung again made the burden seem to be lifted. He's not alone anymore. He can finally be a little brother again, and that's something Jungkook misses greatly. Many people forget that even though Jungkook is a superstar, he is still an ordinary human being who has a fear of loss. During the draft, the distance, the limitations of communication, and the busyness of each made the sense of disconnection even more real. Jungkook once said in one of his live sessions, "Sometimes I'm afraid that after all this, we're not as close as we used to be. Sometimes I'm afraid we change." When they finally returned, Jungkook realized that the fear was slowly disappearing. They have grown, but their bond remains. And that's why Jungkook's tears on the day of RM and Taehyung's return were so deep. It's not just about being happy. It's also about letting go of the fear that has been haunting us all along. RM and Taehyung's return not only means that they are reunited, but also a sign that BTS's full reunion is getting closer. Jimin and Jungkook, who were still serving in the military, were more excited to look forward to the day they got together completely. Jungkook knew that day was not far off. Her cry also contains great hope that they would soon be back together as 7, rather than just separate parts. A reunion that opens wounds and heals hearts. The return of RM and Taehyung after that thrilling moment of embrace. The atmosphere became quiet for a while. There are no words that can represent how much longing they have kept in silence. Jungkook wiped away his tears quickly, trying to smile, as if to show that he was okay, even though it was clear that his eyes could not lie yet. "I think I've grown up," said Jungkook with a small laugh, trying to cover up his fragility. "But it turns out, I still mean you guys." RM looked at him gently, patting Jungkook on the shoulder. "You don't have to grow up in front of me. You just be yourself, Kook." The moment really returned the atmosphere of home that had been lost. Jimin, who also touched a few moments later, Jimin, who was at the end of his military service, sent them a video message. The video was played in the middle of their meeting. On the screen, Jimin said with a smile, "Koo, I can't wait to get back together. I know you miss me, don't you?" Don't feel bad without me." Then Jimin added in a quiet voice that almost shook, "I promise we will be together again soon. Wait for me." Jungkook, who was watching the video, could only look down. Her hands clasped her phone tightly, her lips quivered, then she looked at RM. "I miss Jimin Hyung. I want us all together again. Complete." RM smiled, although his eyes were also glazed. "In a minute, Kook. We'll come back as 7. They all knew that the moment was very close. After the small reunion, Taehyung takes a special time to talk to Jungkook alone. In a small park near HYB's office, Taehyung sits next to Jungkook, who still seems emotional. "Why didn't you tell me you were lonely?" Taehyung asked softly. Jungkook responds to the plan, "I don't want to make you worry. I think I need to be strong." Taehyung let out a long sigh, then looked at Jungkook with such a deep gaze. "You don't have to be strong alone. You got us. You got me. You have Namjoon Hyung. You have everything." Jungkook smiled weakly, then said softly, "I'm afraid of losing you." Taehyung nodded and said firmly, "You will never lose us. We are always here, even when we are far away." Those words serve as a reminder that BTS is not just a music group. They are a family that supports each other. A few days later, as Jimin and Jungkook began to count down the remaining days of their conscription, the chat in BTS's chat group returned to life as before. Jimin often sent hilarious photos and videos from the barracks, while Jungkook began to joke more often in the group after he had previously tended to be quiet. "It's like we're debuting again," Taehyung wrote one night in the group. "The spirit was kayak the first time, but the pity is now deeper. Jungkook, this time I don't want to waste any more time. I hope we continue together." He answered, "You mean your duty is to remain our little brother." The laughter and jokes made the BTS group atmosphere come back to life, as if all the wounds of 2 years were slowly healed. They all know that the most awaited moment is approaching. When that day finally arrived, the media around the world exploded, covering the return of BTS members who had completed their military service. However, of all the moments captured, the most touching was when Jungkook and Jimin walked out together, looking at each other with smiles full of relief. Jungkook whispered to Jimin, "Finally, our house is complete again." Jimin responded by patting Jungkook's shoulder. "This house is always waiting for you, Kook." They then hugged each other, accompanied by army cheers that cried Haru. Jungkook cries when RM and Taehyung go home, not only because of longing, but because all this time he was carrying a burden that he could not share. And when they finally returned, he was reminded that he was never alone. This long journey is not just a story about conscription. This is a story about friendship, family, loss, and rediscovering the warmth of home. Now, with the return of them all, BTS isn't just returning to the stage. They returned to each other's hearts. They returned as a whole family, and to the army, that moment was the greatest gift that had been awaited. Jungkook cried not because of weakness, but precisely because of the courage to show his deepest feelings. He taught us all that in a family, and BTS is a family, tears are part of the journey. That behind the strength that he always shows on stage, there is a magne who misses his home, a house called BTS.